the stuff that comes crawling out of those cans and bottles should not be anywhere in a food environment.
Welcome back to Closer Look. On this Tuesday, the 28th day of October, across the Village Media Network, I'm Scott Sexsmith. Frisco is off on assignment tonight. On the show tonight, have you tried returning any empties lately? In a lot of communities across the province, it's not quite as easy as it used to be. More than 100 beer stores have shut their doors as the Ford government shifts towards increased alcohol sales in both corner stores and grocery stores. But here's the problem. As a condition of those liquor sale licenses, grocery stores must also agree to accept empty bottles and cans. And at the moment, any grocery store located more than 5 kilometers from a beer store must take empties. And as of the 1st of January 2026, that rule will apply to every single grocery store. And as you can imagine, a lot of independent grocery stores are not equipped to handle huge amounts of recycled alcohol containers. They worry about things like potential health impacts at their stores. And some have said they'd rather scrap their liquor license altogether than deal with people's dirty beer bottles. On tonight's episode, we revisit a recent interview with Gary Sands, Vice President of Government Relations at the Canadian Federation of Independent Grocers. We want to talk to you about an issue that may not be on a lot of people's minds tonight, but will be soon, and that issue is empty beer bottles. There's a bit of a problem looming, especially for independent grocers across the province. Gary, what's the concern?
The concern is primarily food safety. The government has announced that they want to allow all grocery stores and convenience stores to be able to sell beer and wine in their stores, which is fine. But at the same time, they're telling the stores that they have to take back all the dirty empties, bottles and cans. And by the way, it doesn't matter where they bought them. So the convenience stores, for example, are exempted from this requirement. But even if you bought the products at the convenience store, the independent grocer would have to take them back. So the first thing is, remember too that the retail footprint, and that's a fancy way of just saying the store size, is going to be a little smaller for a Main Street grocer as opposed to a Bay Street grocer. So the challenges of taking these empties back are going to be more pronounced in a smaller store setting. So the first question we've asked the government, still waiting for an answer, but a deafening silence, has been, where do you suggest in the store the customers bring these dirty bottles and cans, other than providing an asylum for yellow jackets? The stuff that comes crawling out of those cans and bottles should not be anywhere in a food environment. So where should it go? By the bakery section, the fruit and vegetables, maybe the yellow jackets are like that, or by the meat section. And in addition, the government is saying you have to then find a separate space in your store, clean them, sort them, and make them ready for the beer store to pick up. So even aside from the food safety stuff, now the retailer, an independent grocer who's on a margin of 2%, and I didn't pick that figure out of the air, by the way, that's overall 2% is StatsCan for independent grocers. So out of that, now you're going to have to chop off some of the space in your store to make room for all these dirty cans and bottles, which means a loss of revenue because something is coming out. And again, we've asked the government, any suggestions on what should come out? And just a deafening silence. And if I could just add one point, and this is what makes it even more of a head scratcher. A few weeks ago, I should explain to your listeners, there's a discount allowance that the LCBO provides of 10% to retailers, convenience stores, restaurants, bars, when they're ordering, the beer and wine to offset the costs of, getting the stuff on your shelf and all that stuff. A few weeks ago, they increased the discount allowance for the convenience stores to 15%, but they left grocery at 10%. Now, the average person would probably wonder, well, why would you do that? Because you've exempted the convenience stores from having to accept the empties. You're plopping this all on grocery, but you're going to increase the discount allowance for the convenience stores and not the grocery. And to be honest with you, I thought, if anything, they would have tried the reverse, giving it more to grocery. Even then, that would, I'll be honest with you, it wouldn't have made a difference because food safety can't be negotiated on price.
That's right.
But that's where we're just perplexed at what the government is doing. And this stuff with the convenience stores particularly rankles the independents. Independents are small businesses. The two biggest players in the convenience store sector are Couche-Tard and 7-Eleven. Couche-Tard, which is Circle K, for your listeners, that would be pretty visible, they're bigger than Loblaws. 7-Eleven has their headquarters in Texas. So why are you providing extra benefits and exemptions to those guys and the independent grocers who are family-owned businesses here in Ontario? They're not big monolithic chains. They're hitting them over the head.
It's a great question. I wonder, did the independent grocers, did anyone know that when the government announced that they were going to allow more sale of beer, wine, and spirits in grocery stores, that you'd be on the hook, that the grocery stores would be on the hook for dealing with empties? Was that known at the beginning?
No. And in fact, when it became known, that's why you're having so many grocery stores. I'll just pick for the independents. The pickup's been about 5%. So it's been very low. And in fact, some independents already had beer and wine licenses, which were given to them under the previous government, because the Wynne government first started this trend. Nothing in their agreement says anything about recycling. So as one of our members pointed out to the government, how come when you wanted to get out of your agreement with the beer store, you threw them $250 million, but with our agreements, you just ignore them? Because those independents, they have agreements. There's nothing in those agreements that says anything about taking back empties, but we're just going to ignore that.
And what was their response, Gary?
I'm still waiting.
Just like the other ones.
Gary,
I'm being honest with you.
Yeah,
you guys, you could reach out to the government. You'll get the same answer we did, which is crickets.
And are you still waiting for an answer as to why convenience stores got that 15% discount versus grocers at 10%? Anybody challenge the government?
Oh, no. We've asked them, and we're still waiting for an answer to that one. Why are small business grocers not getting that, and the big monolithic multinational chains like Couche-Tard and 7-Eleven are getting it? No answer.
Okay, what about independent grocers thinking of canceling their liquor selling licenses because this has become such a concern? Is that a thing? Is that happening? Is there talk of that?
Absolutely, and I wouldn't keep repeating it if it wasn't true, and I wasn't absolutely convinced that it's true. We have independent grocers who have licenses that they received under the previous system, and they have indicated that on January 1st, when they're required to take back these empties, if that hasn't been changed, they're turning in their licenses. And that you can take to the bank. It's guaranteed. You can interview me again in January if this hasn't changed, and I'll give you the names of the independents who absolutely will cancel their license.
I'll put that on the calendar for January 1st. We'll make sure we get you on. But that's interesting, right? You can imagine the dilemma that a grocery store owner has, right? They know that it's like you said, especially if you're in a smaller community where you're the only game in town. People want to be able to buy liquor at your store, but you're also struggling with, I can't handle this demand where I have to take back all the recycling. That's a tough call for an owner.
It is, but especially we have to think outside of Toronto. I at least I'll speak for myself. I'm here in Toronto, but we have to think about the rest of the country, the rest of the province, and much of this province is much different than Toronto.
So just so I'm clear, Gary. By January 1st, it's mandatory that if you're part of this, you have to be accepting recycling, and only a few right now have actually opted in and started doing that. Is that right?
That's right. If you are within 5 kilometers right now, if you're within 5 kilometers of a beer store location, you do not have to accept the recycling. As of January 1st, that reference is completely gone. It doesn't matter if there's a beer store next door to you; you have to accept the recycling.
Okay, I see. And you do expect, like you said, that some stores are just going to say, forget it, we're not going to bother. I guess the question I had for you is, what are the horror stories you're hearing? Like, you've talked about how stores are saying, geez, where am I going to put these things? Are some stores being just overrun with people coming back with their empties?
Yeah, the only one I can give you an example, because like I said, we've had a very low pickup, but we have one grocer, his name's Gordon Dean. He has 4 stores in Eastern Ontario, and because of that beer store requirement, he is taking them back. And the stuff he's telling us about would I don't have much hair left, but it makes it stand on edge. He says they're dirty. The stuff that's crawling out of these things, there's flies, bugs, yellow jackets, and he says the smell is just horrendous, and it certainly does not enhance the shopping experience. He's had to install these special pest things in the area where they're supposed to be stored. He's had to hire extra staff just to deal with it. It's just a nightmare. And he said the other thing is, when the beer store comes to pick it up, I can't remember the name of the equipment they use to pick up the empties, but he said, I don't want it in my store. He had to tell them no, because they go to different locations, but they never clean it.
Ugh.
So, like I said, it's just a nightmare. And when other retailers, grocers hear about that, it convinces them, no way.
Here's what I don't understand. You've got one side of the government mandating this, but then you've got another side of the government who's also mandating certain health regulations, health and safety requirements that need to be met.
Yeah,
they're talking out of both sides of their mouth.
But, that's hilarious that you're saying. I shouldn't say hilarious. That's actually one of the issues we took back to them is saying we've got your own government, public health authorities, and the CFIA enforcing certain regulations and expectations that you have around retail grocery. This requirement completely flies in the face of that. Can you tell us what your consultation with those bodies indicated? And I'm still waiting for that answer.
That's all for Closer Look tonight. Be sure to follow us on social media. Subscribe at closerlookpodcast.ca and reach out, of course, anytime at closerlook@villagemedia.ca. Tonight's program produced by Derek Turner. Frisco and I will be back tomorrow night at 7 with another edition of Closer Look. Enjoy your night.
Frisco and Scott's Wardrobe provided in part by Moores, Sault Ste. Marie.